life is always going to have stress, but the things that you can control that causes you stress, such as let's say like poor relationships, narcissistic relationships, abuse, once you start getting rid of those, or at least putting some distance, you're like, oh my God, I just got back 10 years of my life.
Yes, that's what it feels like. And I think I love what you said. And we can put toxic things into our bodies. People do it all the time. We can eat toxic food for our bodies, all that, and shorten our lifespan. But the friends, the relationships that are toxic, shedding those are just as important for our psyche and for our spirit.
So
Definitely.
what do you think is the reason why so many people find themselves not only, let's say, in a relationship with a narcissist, but let's say, for example, staying in that relationship with a narcissist?
Why do people stay? Okay, there's a lot of reasons. So, a lot of women, and I'll just target women, a lot of women, older women, mature women, stay in narcissistic relationships for 20, 30, 40, and beyond years is because of health and financial concerns. They've been with this person, they're well aware they're a narcissist, but because maybe they have some health issues, it's easier to be with somebody else. Not that the narcissist is going to put you first ever, but you have the security of being under one roof. Financial, sometimes when you've lived with somebody that long, or been married to somebody that long, you just get used to that, and maybe the woman hasn't worked or hasn't provided enough income to really sustain herself. It's easier to just stay. So I think those are the two primary reasons why. Some, I would say a third one, and the saddest one, is because they don't think enough of themselves to do anything about it.
I find that to be two of probably the main reasons in my experiences is that a narcissist will make you feel trapped in that
Yes.
relationship, right? Like
Yes.
either they're the one that's going to be providing a lifestyle that in the beginning it's like, oh my God, I found Mr. or Mrs. Right,
Yeah.
right? And then you're financially dependent on that person. And another one is they will break you down because a lot of people who find themselves in a narcissistic relationship maybe are narcissists themselves, or they present certain um weaknesses or character behaviors that are like catnip to a narcissist, right? Like a narcissist will
Right.
look at them and be like, ooh, here comes another victim that's graduating every year like a college student,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, that is very astute observation. Yes. Often the narcissist is attracted to all a person with all the traits that they will never have. Often they're attracted to an empath who is loving and kind and people oriented and just nurturing and things like that. And they know that they might never voice it, but they know internally that that piece is missing. So empaths who have all those qualities are a perfect target for the narcissist. And they know how to draw them in with the flypaper of charismatic behavior.
How can then someone identify if the person they're now dating, before it gets very serious, before it gets marriage, before there's 10 kids involved, how can they identify, okay, this person might be a narcissist? What are some behaviors that they should look for?
Yeah, that is really good because often it escapes us because we get so caught up in the moment, in the charismatic personality of the narcissist. So, some ways I would say one way is to just be aware that is your life being sucked. And I think of that plant on the Addams Family, that plant that that sucked in stuff. That's what I think of when I think of a narcissist. So be aware, is your life being sucked in to the narcissist life where your life really doesn't matter. And this could happen absolutely before there's marriage, kids, anything in a dating relationship. Look at over time. To me, the 3 and 4 month period is usually all the masks are off by then, and that's a defining time. Sometimes it's sooner, sometimes it's a first date, and you say, "Ooh, I've been through this before." Ding, 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 and you just cut it off. Sometimes the narcissist will be so slick that you won't recognize it, or they present themselves in a different way. But it's just awareness that your life is being sucked into their life. So your life really doesn't matter as much as their life. Your tasks and your achievements, they're good, and the narcissist will applaud them and will celebrate them, but their accomplishments overshadow always their tasks, the things they're involved in always will overshadow yours. That's a really good way to know that. I think over a little bit of time, another way is, I mean, and we know, you and I know, and maybe we can delve into this later in the conversation, but there's that cycle, the narcissistic cycle. And at its basic, it's the love bombing. They will do anything and everything to draw you in. Then the discounting, you cooked a meal and it's almost perfect, but this and this and this, just little things are wrong with each thing. The discounting, then of course the discarding, and then the hoovering back in, which is, similar to that plant. And so the Morticia plant, we'll call it that. So just to be aware again, and the key word is awareness, be aware of that cycle, and be aware of if you are doing things for the narcissist. If you cook a meal and, oh, this salad is great, but you know what? I think a little bit more bacon would be helpful next time. If you cook something else, oh, this is nearly perfect, but huge sign. So those are the top two. I could go on for other signs, but they manifest themselves over time.
And I look at some people who are, let's say, I don't want to use the word damage or broken, but let's say they have some insecurities that they haven't been able to come to terms with yet, right? It could be someone that they always felt unattractive because people around them made them feel that way. They can always feel low confidence because their family always told them that they were. They can feel insecure for so many different ways. And then you have this Prince Charming, this Princess Charming who comes around and tells you everything you've always wanted to hear from your yay big, right?
Yeah.
Now, imagine that thrill. Imagine the bells that are going off. Imagine the feeling like, oh my God. It's like you just hit the emotional jackpot. So I can see why some people would be hesitant to kind of break away from that, because if you compare the two, I stay with this person that's a jackass, but he's so nice. I stay with this woman that's a gold digger, but she's so sexy. And then the alternative is I go back to my cold, dark bed, right? A lot of
Yes.
people, no matter how abused they may feel, are going to be like, you know what, Terrain? You know what, Michelle? This devil over here, I kind of know this devil. I can tolerate things, right? And how many times do people stay in places that they're actually tolerated instead of staying in places that they're actually liked? What are your thoughts?
Oh man, that is so real. That is, and it resonates with me too, because I was raised to not think much of myself. I was raised to you know to be compared to a younger perceived perfect sibling. I was tolerated in my family and not celebrated. And that was, it made me who I am, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, but that type of growing up makes you vulnerable. And so, yes, in the past I have been vulnerable to that charismatic, very complimentary personality that does that. And I know the saying is we all have a little bit of narcissism in us. Very true, but it doesn't present itself as we're a narcissistic person. And I think that word is thrown around way too much. If somebody acts selfish one time, oh, you're such a narcissist. No, they were just chose to be selfish in that moment. But those personalities that have been maybe the ugly duckling syndrome, and then you have the Prince Charming. Maybe you have the princess, Shira, that comes your direction, and they are feeding you everything. It is easy to say, well, it's better than being alone. And to that, I say, no, it isn't. It is not. But people are at different stages in their life, and often it's not better to be alone because they haven't done the work in themselves, and it's treacherous to be alone because they're not comfortable with themselves. And so it's easier to sustain yourself with somebody who is a major jerk because you don't think enough of yourself to get out of it and to realize that you do deserve more. It's just like,
You
this is all I deserve. This is all I've been told I deserve. Just settle for it. It's better than nothing.
you have people that they will be alone and not because of a love for themselves. I'm going to be alone. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to repair myself. I'm going to fix where I am deficient in, but I'm going to praise where I'm sufficient in. But they'll be alone because I hate everyone. I hate all women. I hate all men.
Mhm.
Right. And it's interesting to see the difference between someone who is taking a step back out of love and appreciation and someone who's taking a step back out of hatred and what's the word I'm looking for? And maybe anxiety, because
Mhm.
the approach is different. Like the person that, to your point, right, who is saying that, okay, I'm in this abusive relationship. I'm going to take a step back because I want to love myself in the way that I think I should be loved. Right?
Yes.
They'll work on themselves and they'll find certain things that they may even take people away from their lives to better
Mhm.
themselves. Someone who does it out of hatred now, they'll surround themselves with people who equally hate what they don't like. Right? And then they'll blame everyone else. They'll say that I'm perfect. It's everyone else. Whereas when you go to them, you're like, you do realize that there's healthy relationships being created every day. You do realize that people get married every day and people are creating babies every day. So if this group of people can make it work, why can't you? And right. And what are your thoughts on maybe some people looking inward more so to fix a situation versus looking outward to fix a situation?
Oh, that's such a deep question and insightful. And I will say, people on the outside of that person who is looking on the outside, and I hate everybody, and I'm going to, like the I don't know, kind of like a self-loathing, self-vengeful kind of person. People on the outside aren't going to notice any difference. I mean, they know that person to be who they are, and they're not going to notice a difference. Where a person focusing on getting better, fixing those things in themselves that are broken, doing the work, going through the trenches of self-healing, people around them over time are going to notice that. They're going to notice a transformation taking place. They're going to sense, they might not even say anything, but they're going to sense something is different about them. And I think that's a key. Plus, the person themselves are going to be in social situations and they're going to think, wow, what happened? I feel different. I feel more empowered. I feel stronger, and they're going to notice more all of a sudden because they've been through the subtle journey. People around them are going to notice something is happening in their lives, and maybe even ask the person, what have you been doing? What Something's different about you.
And that's the key. The key is to make sure that you take a look at what you could have controlled and what you couldn't have controlled, right? Because it's unfortunate that maybe so many of us, when things go bad, we don't take a step back to find out why it goes bad. We just go surround ourselves with the people who everything seems to be going bad for, right? And then you mentioned, right,
Yes.
now the self-loathing doesn't even become, you're not even doing it on your by yourself anymore. It's like it literally is that saying, misery loves company, right?
Yes.
And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're dealing with, let's say, a narcissist or someone who's abusive, once you've escaped and breaking free, the narcissist and the abuser goes on to their next victim. They're not thinking
Yes.
about you. Whereas you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. And you're focused on someone that when they're with you didn't care about you. And now that they've drained you of time, resources, and maybe money and your youth and your sanity in a lot of cases,
Yes.
they're on to the next person. So why continue to be a prison of your own pain?
Oh man, that is so much what women, and I'll just speak from a woman's perspective, that's what they go through, and they think after they have, and I'll call it escaped from a narcissistic relationship of any type, a friendship, relationship, love relationship, they exit from it, they get strong, but then you have moments of, are they thinking about me? Are they, they're maybe they're doing this big grand vacation and they have a new supply source, which a narcissist has to have a supply source of all at all times. And so you wonder, I wonder if they've changed. I wonder if he's treating her wonderfully and just like a queen. But remember, he treated you like that too. When he was love bombing you, he treated you like that too, because you were considered a supply source. So in the mind, we're thinking, he's changed. He's treating her wonderfully. He's just miraculously a different person. No, 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 no. Unless they go through, and it's hard to even get a narcissist to admit that they're a narcissist. If they go to therapy, if they get the help, and they're very extremely self-aware, they might be able to control it to a certain amount. But most of the time, that is a very slim, a sliver of the people who really go to a therapist and get change. Most, they will never change, and that's the hope of the empath. Maybe they've changed. Maybe they're a different person. Or when they hoover you back in. I've been hoovered back in, and you just think, oh, this is different. This is so different. No, it's not different. It's the same pattern. You can just expect more of the same. And so no, there's no change. There is no if you expect them to come back and say, "Oh my gosh, which we want. Oh my, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I treated you that way. I'm so sorry I diminished you in so many different ways." That is fairy tale deceptive thinking, bottom line.
Why do you think so many people, maybe yourself included,
Mhm.
wanted to believe that the person would change and ultimately would change for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for women, there is a book called Cinderella Complex, I believe, and I have not read it, but I think that's it. We want to be Cinderella, or as a Jerry Lewis movie, Cinderfella. And we want to believe that. We hang on to the belief that we are going to be the ones that they really fall in love with and they learn to be a different person. We want to believe that. And it's a false belief, but we hang on to it because we want that. We want to see, we want love ourselves. I mean, basically, we want to be unconditionally loved. You will never be unconditionally loved by a narcissist, ever, in your whole life. So, but we want that. We want somebody to see us for who we are. We want somebody to celebrate us, as you said, not tolerate us, but celebrate us. And we hold on to that picture, thinking that we are the ones that will change all that. And you have to come to a point where you let that go, you let that picture go, and you even grieve that picture, that it's not going to be reality with that person. It can still happen, I believe. I believe that love happens, of course, and I believe that you can fall hopelessly, desperately in love with another person. People love each other till death do them part. But it's when you've been the a survivor of a narcissistic relationship, it's you have to just fall in love with yourself. And I don't mean in a narcissistic way. I mean, you have to learn, if there's nobody else in the picture, learn to celebrate yourself. Learn to reward yourself. If you have a good day, if you have an achievement that you've accomplished, celebrate that. Go take yourself out. For my birthday this year in November, I took myself out to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and had a lovely, lovely dinner. That is a process. I felt in years past, I felt so dorky and such a loser sitting in a booth by myself, like everybody in the whole restaurant was looking at me saying, "Oh my gosh, there must be something really wrong with her. She's sitting there by herself all dressed up." And I felt very, very self-conscious. Now, no, not at all. In fact, people have said, "Oh, I wish I was there to help you celebrate." I'm good. I am good. So you learn to love yourself in a healthy, self-nurturing way. And I hope that
And it
answered your question. Kind of went off on rabbit
does.
trails there.
No, it does because it takes me back to a point where I remember the very first time I went to a restaurant by myself. I put on my best shoes, I put on my fanciest pants, I put on a nice shirt, and I sat there and I felt like you mentioned a dork. And I was thinking, oh my God, everyone is looking at me, right? And then you begin to
Yes.
realize after a while, no one is looking at you. So, Michelle, the second time I went to that restaurant,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna go there like it's my birthday on steroids. And I had a lovely time. I had the fanciest of food, and my chin was in the air as I'm cutting my food. And I was just like, okay, I am the man of the hour right now. Okay,
Exactly.
exactly. But it goes to your point. Even something as small as that,
Hmm.
you can find joy in it and you can make yourself feel good because we spend, especially when it comes to relationships in the three different forms, like whether it's personal, professional, romantic, we spend so much time beating ourselves up for decisions that, yeah, you know what? Maybe we didn't make the best decision. Maybe we saw something that obviously wasn't there. And maybe we were just being dumb,
Hmm.
right? But when we
Yes.
come out of it now, that's where we have to still pick ourselves up. Don't come out of it jaded and filled with hatred. Come out of it feeling I am going to give myself the type of love that I want because if you're going to come out there and not loving yourself, then how can you ever ask anyone else to love you if you won't love yourself, right?
Yes, yes, amen to that. Because a lot of women, it takes some time, especially for these women that have been in a marriage of 30, 40 years with a narcissist, and they finally found the courage to escape. It takes time because they take away your soul one comment, one act at a time, and you are so damaged. And it's studies have proven that they actually start killing you. Your body starts imploding on you one thing at a time. And so it takes a lot of time to work through those steps to get healthy again and to believe in yourself and to be able to celebrate yourself. And many of these women, and I'm imagining men as well, who have been in long term narcissistic relationships, you are so, so damaged that it's not going to happen overnight. And you might go to a restaurant multiple times and feel like a dork. and feel like a loser and feel like everybody in the restaurant staring at you, which they're not. They're just worried about something stuck in their teeth. So they're, maybe they have a dinner partner and that's all they're caring about. Do I have spinach in my teeth? Am I carrying myself right? When you eat alone, and when I dine alone, and I love fine dining, oh, I do. I use my same formal manners as I would if I were sitting across from somebody. After each bite, I put my fork down. I put my, I use proper manners. And I'm kind of funny about that. All the things, all the rules I learned, nobody does them, but I like to. So I eat like that and I treat myself as if I were royalty, not again. People think, oh, that's so selfish. That's so selfish and self-centered. No, it's healing. It is healing. Have I always been like that? No. I have let, I have had narcissistic relationships. I have uh, experienced some things. And so I don't come at it. I come at it whole and healed now, but it's taken some time to get there.
How long did it take you to understand that you were in that type of relationship and that you needed to escape it?
You know, that is a good question because I think it differs with everybody. For me personally, I think I had a a fiance that for a short it had a very short shelf life, but I had a fiance. I recognized maybe in the first month that something was off. That we were talking about a marriage. I had the ring, the big dramatic proposal, everything. It was like a fairy tale proposal with the get down on the knee. So it was supposed to be surprise, a bunch of friends around, very expensive Brazilian steakhouse dinner, dinner place. Just the whole thing. The waiter or the server had the silver, thing, the silver cover thing where the ring, was on the plate. It was just a fairy tale experience, but it wasn't about the relationship. It was all about the show. And so I I don't know if I recognized it. I had a clue by that time, but I was still playing into it because I thought someone really loved me. And that's a key. But I think it was about a month in, there was talk after we were married on my days off. What are you going to serve me in breakfast in bed? What kind of food? Um, it was all about him and me serving him. And it was just, it didn't take a whole long time for me to recognize the signs. But again, I didn't leave the second I realized it. I still played the game because my illusion was that, ooh, maybe I found someone that really does love me. And it was a learning lesson,
I guess my
definitely.
question in that situation is like
Yeah.
from a male perspective,
Hmm.
I like to, and maybe, and women probably maybe do this, women do this as well,
Hmm.
is if I look back at, let's say, like the love languages, right? You have like active
Hmm.
services, words of affirmation, gift giving, things like that.
Yes.
Now, if I were to ask someone or be asked an act of service, such as when you go to make me breakfast in bed or making breakfast in bed, how do you distinguish between it being done in a loving way and a narcissistic type abusive way?
Ooh, that's such a great question. Again, all your questions are good, Terrain. Uh, they're so insightful. I would say, based on my own experience, I had already seen other signs, other clues. I had other clues. So I interpreted it as that. If it was a mutual love relationship where I felt nurtured and I felt taken care of, there's nothing I won't do. There's nothing I won't do. Breakfast in bed, sure, but it would be me thinking about it, me initiating it, not the other person demanding it or requesting it, and not in a joking way. There's a joking, hey, when are you going to feed me breakfast in bed? That's a joking way. It's just like, yeah, when the moon turns red, or, whatever. So there were other clues, and that you have to really, really be observant, but you can't always just be that one that's looking for every single thing. Like, you have that suspicious eye, that you question everybody's motive all the time, because that will turn off really good men or good women, where you're questioning their motives and they have no ulterior motive. They're not a narcissist. They just are just regular people.
I
So
think
you
that's
can
where it
take the
comes down.
motives. Hmm.
That's what comes back to understanding. And if there's any confusion, just ask,
Yes,
right? I think we
communication.
don't,
Just
yeah, I think we don't do enough of that because God forbid, and we're in that time where like you can say or do something, let's say 10 years ago, and you had good intentions, and now it's like, I don't know, because a person has brought up and they said that, well, you made me feel this way so long ago. So I think to your point, it's not necessarily in a lot of ways, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's like, hey, my
yes,
lovely wife, can you make me bed? Can you make me breakfast in bed? I don't think everyone's going to say, you narcissist,
exactly, exactly.
right? Right?
Would you mind,
Versus,
honey? Would you mind? I'm just really
yeah,
extra tired. Absolutely. If you feel nurtured, if you know that they would do it for you, and if they're not a cook, go to what's that country, what's that country store, that country restaurant, Cracker Barrel. go
there you go.
go to
Yeah,
IHOP or Cracker Barrel and
go
go
to
order
IHOP.
breakfast and serve it to them in bed. Whatever you have to do. But if you feel like they would do the same thing for you, absolutely, that's a mutual respect, a mutual nurturing. So, and you have to, just like you said with the five love languages, if their love language is acts of service, they're probably going to appreciate a breakfast in bed more than you. Maybe you like words of affirmation. Maybe you would just like them to come in the living room or the kitchen and just say, "Wow, you look pretty today. Wow, you look extra handsome today." And I'm just so happy I'm with you. That would fill their soul to no end. So it's being sensitive of those five gifts and communicating in the way that's meaningful to them. Where a
Yeah.
narcissist doesn't care about any of that, is just what can you do for them, and how can you serve them?
Yeah, yeah. Like you want to make sure that you're somewhere on the end where it's closer to respect, right? Like you have maybe one end where the person brings out the whip and chain and be like, "Make me breakfast, woman," and is is whipping you like that. You're like, "Oh my god, this is not love." Yeah, well, it's not love. Some people may think it's love, right? Because that's their baseline. All they know is the whip and chain and their abuse. But for those who don't know that experience, you want to make sure that the person is saying in a way that is respectful. And the beautiful thing that I find about human beings is your body will tell you when it's being disrespected. So don't ignore your body. When you were going through it, or maybe some of the women out there, is that something that maybe happened to you where you were ignoring certain things, even though, let's say, your body, your instinct, your intuition was telling you otherwise?
Yes, my circumstances when I was involved, my circumstances were not good, and things were not going well on the outside. A lot of times my shoulders were like way up here, maybe, I mean, maybe not like that, but they were tense. I was having more nightmares because I've struggled with nightmares all my life. And so I was having more violent nightmares. I was very anxious. And with the ex-fiance, and he ended up passing away sometime, I don't know, during 2020 something. But with him, I was anxious all the time and I was questioning, like, is this how love is supposed to feel? Because I didn't have a really strong frame of reference. And I was married 23 years, but I still didn't have a positive, normal, as we say, normal, a healthy frame of reference. And so I'm like, I don't think the honeymoon stage or the dating stage is supposed to feel this tumultuous and this anxious. And I mean, some days, and I'm not one to struggle with depression. I'm not one to like, oh, I can't get out of bed today. Not at all. Not, I'm a happy, go lucky person. But I was really struggling and I was questioning, is this like, it isn't supposed to feel like this yet? Or is this supposed to feel like this at this stage of the game?
That's the
So, yeah.
danger. The danger is that
Hmm.
if all you know is the trauma, all you're going
Yes.
to seek out is the trauma, and all you're going to get back is the trauma, right?
Yes, absolutely. If you have had a trauma-based love experience, even if in your family of origin, even growing up, if you had a traumatic, very conditional love situation and you come from a trauma base, that's comfortable. That's very comfortable. And yes, to your point, you will seek that out because it doesn't feel good, but it's your comfort zone. And you really have to seek out help, a therapist, a counselor, to get you out of that, or else you'll live the rest of your life seeking that trauma. And as they say, you can have a trauma bond, you know, your trauma seeks out the trauma of somebody else, and sometimes you're bonded with somebody else simply through your separate traumas. It's true, it's real, and it happens.
I wonder how many people find themselves in that situation where us on the outside are questioning it, where them, because it's all they know, they're like, you know what, Terrain? You know what, Michelle? This is safety to me. This is all that I
Mhm.
know. This is what I am used to. And then when you try to get them in a peaceful and healthy relationship, it's kind of scary because one, maybe they aren't good enough for it.
Mhm.
And two, maybe they don't know how to function in a relationship that isn't narcissistic.
Yes, and that is the case with a lot of people. They don't know, they wouldn't know a healthy relationship, as it said, if it came up and bit them. They don't know what that's even like. And like I said, I didn't have a great frame of reference of what, I don't know. What does a healthy relationship look like? I've seen it modeled. I kind of have an idea. I've read books. I see what it's supposed to be, but my training, my life experience has said, yeah, but is that really true? Is that really possible? Maybe it's just that one couple that experiences this wonderful bonded relationship. But I think, I don't know, to your point, I think that, yeah, we just stay, like if somebody came to me and said, yeah, I think I see it, but my trauma and my this anxiousness is normal to me. And me being maybe there, this is way down the road, and I'm down here because I've done the work. I can point them to some tools. I can try and encourage them, but I'm not a professional counselor. I'm not a professional therapist. So they need somebody who they can seek out and just bounce their ideas off of them. And sometimes it takes a total stranger, a trained stranger, to point out, have you ever considered dot, dot, dot? Have you thought about dot, dot, dot? And just speaking into their lives as a friend, male or female, you can speak positivity into someone's life. I had someone, there was a lady at church, a church I used to go to, and I like to put adjectives before people's names to help me remember their names. And her name was Tammy. And I always say, "Oh, terrific Tammy." And she insisted continually, "No, no, 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 not terrific. Terrible, terrible Tammy." And I said, "No, no, no, you're terrific Tammy." Yeah, but you, and she explained a little bit about her background to me. horribly abused and emotionally abused, verbally abused. And her belief was that she was terrible Tammy. And it grieved my heart so much. So, as a friend, as an acquaintance, I could speak positivity into her life. I could speak words of affirmation, whether she believed them or not, but to get professional help to tear away those deep seated beliefs, it takes time and a trained person to really start the deep work.
What do you think are some of the obstacles that would prevent someone from beginning to do that work when, in general, so many people want to be loved and feel happiness?
What? Okay, repeat the question again. I'm sorry.
No worries. So, what obstacles do you think are preventing people from doing the work when we all want to be loved and feel happiness?
Yeah, well, obstacles, I would say the top three. First is that you don't believe anything is wrong, that it's comfortable and you want to stay. You don't want to upset the apple cart. Everything's fine. I like the way it's going, even though it's horribly dysfunctional. So just that denial of no, I'm good. I think the second one would be that I think just going back to the self belief. Like, I believe I don't deserve any better. I believe what everybody in my family of origin said. I believe that I'm dumb. I believe that I'm homely. I believe this. And since I believe it, and I was told that by people that should have loved and I should have trusted, it must be true. There must be some truth to it, you know? And so I think that self belief, the denial, the errant self belief. And I think the third one would be I think people think, ooh, therapy. I don't have thousands of dollars. I just don't have that kind of money to invest in that. But there are plenty of res- excuse me, resources out there that you can get a few sessions, even through your insurance. If you have insurance through work, most insurances cover maybe 5 mental health appointments. I mean, even just a few can help, but you can poke around to county services, and maybe you're not going to maybe you'll get someone that's really, really good. Maybe not. If you have thousands of dollars to spend in therapy, go for it. But I think that's a hindrance, is that people think I can't afford it, therefore I'm not going to get any. And they stay stuck the rest of their lives, and they stay in that trap.
It's scary to see like this correlation where you have some people, and this just came to me right now, where some people stay in the relationship because of money.
Mhm.
Some people don't seek help because of money.
Yes, yes, exactly. And there's always help. I've never personally used them. There's one website called Seven Cups. I believe I've heard of them. I don't know how good, I don't know how exactly it works, but there's some free resources. There's some free stuff out there that maybe can start you. There's some books out there, the Lisa TerKeurst books, the Dr. Henry Cloud books, John Townsend. There's some books out there that if you're a reader, and you can always get it on audio, you don't have to be a reader. There's no excuse to not get help. There's no excuse. There are resources out there, and if you want to seek out and if you want to get healthy, you can. If you can't afford a therapist, read some books. When I was first divorced, I read the way I started my healing journey. I read Changes That Heal by, I think it was Dr. Henry Cloud. I read Women Who Try Too Hard. I read Boundaries, and those were significant, especially Changes That Heal were was a significant book to start me thinking a little different way about myself. So a book is what, $10? Hey, if you can't afford a book, go to your library
And
I mean,
yeah. And one more
there's
thing I'll
ways.
say is that outside of the money aspect, depending on where you're going to go with it, a lot of
Yeah.
situations can be expensive, some can be affordable,
Hmm.
but one major step that I would say that's probably up there with money is the shame and the guilt of
Yes.
admitting you need help. There's a few people who
Yep.
it was recommended by a number of people in their circle to seek therapy or coach, and they didn't want to do it because their answer was, well, I know what's wrong with me. But on the flip side, which is kind of interesting, Michelle, is that they would go to, let's say, like a medium or a fortune teller, something like that, right? And the
Yeah.
interesting thing that I came up with to the people who are trying to help, I was like, you have to understand the dynamic. When you go to a therapist or a mentor, there's work that you have to do internally and externally. When you go to a
Yeah.
medium or a fortune teller, all you have to do is just sit there and let them read your
Yeah.
cards. So there's very little work outside of stepping into your car, turning it on, and driving there.
Yeah.
Versus if you go to a coach, mentor, or therapist, there is work that you have to be done, and you're going to see things about yourself that you probably knew was there, and you've kept locked away in the closet the entire time.
Yes. And that shame, I think that we could add that to the list of the the reasons why people don't seek out help is they're so riddled with shame. They're so shame based that they can't get past that part. They know it's in their belief system says, I know it's me. I know that I am such a terrible person. I'm terrible Tammy. I mean, which is so sad to me, you know? And she would just had a beautifully spirited, she was beautifully spirited person. And just to have that belief. So um I think that shame aspect plays a lot into not seeking help or just not wanting to face and do the work. I'm too old. I'm too past that. This is a this is a handicap like you if you had a broken leg or a broken hip or something and you walk with a limp. It's okay. I'll deal with a limp the rest of my life rather than getting therapy to help me walk straight, rather than doing the work to help me. I'll just walk with a limp.
Yeah, some people rather walk and maneuver through life incomplete and insufficient versus digging deep and say, I gotta pause everything and do some serious work. It's like bad vision
Yeah.
where you just get used to it, right? And just like,
Hmm.
well, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm just used to it. Things are blurry at 100 meters. That's perfectly
Yes.
fine. Instead of improving it, you've adapted everything
Yeah.
else to this one thing, and it's like putting a frog in water and slowly turning up the heat, right? You don't
That's right.
realize it until when it's too late and you're dead.
That's right. And that's a perfect analogy. And I know people use that one all the time, and I've used it multiple times, but that's exactly like it is when you're not seeking help. And I'm going to say, once you, if somebody goes to a therapist, if somebody goes and reads a book, reads several books on self-healing, changes that heal, and how to set healthy boundaries and all that, that's not the end of your journey. It's this is life. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And just because you have a major healing moment, you might have an aha moment that just changes everything. That doesn't mean the work is done. We are consistently and continually working on ourselves, and those triggers will come up. Life circumstances, you might have a be in a new work situation and a coworker, oh my gosh, they remind you of something you've gone through and it triggers you. You have to be aware of that and say, okay, there's a little more work to do. How can I manage myself within this situation? And to that point, there's ways that that empaths can manage themselves who choose to stay in a narcissistic relationship.
Yes, because escaping isn't easy, but identifying within yourself is ultimately the first step. And to be fair, Michelle, there's going to be some people that are not going to leave, not because maybe they don't find a way. It's just I think complacency is such a common thing with many people, you know. I'm complacent in in this bad job. I'm complacent in this toxic relationship. I'm
Yes.
complacent in this neglectful family. I'm complacent in this negative friends. It's just one thing after another. And it's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go wake up every morning, get my 6.5 hours, go work 8 hours, come home, watch some TV, and go back to bed. Wash, rinse, repeat. But you
Yes.
introduce something that's healthy and their entire world is thrown into a flux. And when they realize what's going on, like, no, 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 I can't do this. Not because I don't see the benefit, because I see how much work it's going to be. And maybe I don't want to do that.
Exactly. That a lot of people just don't want to do the work because I think the main reason is they don't see the end of the work. They don't see the result of the work. They just see, oh my gosh, I can't add anything more to my plate. I I can't. Not, it's I can't, it's not I won't, but I can't. Well, yes, you can. If you have enough resolve in you, if you really want to get healthy, yeah, you can. But they don't want to do that and they don't see the results right in front of them. And they think it's going to be okay, let me spend an hour working on myself. No, it's not going to happen in an hour. An aha moment might happen in an instant, but that's the result of hours of self contemplation, of reading, of talking to somebody that's trained to help you have breakthroughs. But some people are just like companies who the most dangerous words for a company is we've always done it this way. The most dangerous words for a person is I've always lived this way. Just leave me alone.
So, as we close, Michelle, what advice do you want to give to those who are trying to leave a narcissistic situation, but they're just trying to maybe best present themselves to do so?
Yeah, that's a great wrap up question. And I would say it takes such strength after you've been with a narcissist and through that cycle repeatedly over years of time. And so the best thing to do, I mean, of course, they say no contact. Sometimes, if you're married to the person and you have kids, there can't be no contact. You have to be in touch with that person. A great tool is just the narcissist is looking for a reaction. They live off reaction. And so I would say the method of gray rocking would be the best way to maintain yourself, but to leave as well. Just you
Full
know what
cold
I mean? I
face.
just gray rocking, not reacting, just okay, or just not saying anything. And that just drives a narcissist crazy. And as that happens, as you continue to do that, I really think that that gives you the strength to leave. Some people just decide in a moment, I've had enough, and they make that change. For the ones that don't have that, make it, create an exit plan, create one step at a time to where you, okay, I'm going to take my stuff back, or my possessions. I'm going to take my possessions back. I'm going to clean out. Maybe you have some possessions at their house or vice versa. Get rid of those. It's step one. um mentally, just do your best to detach mentally. There's that trauma bond. There's what's that, soul tie, that's created. So that has to be disconnected. Sometimes that takes longer after you've even separated from the person. But the people that just can't go cold turkey, just do it in steps. Just steps that are maybe, just if you have to stay in your comfort zone, stay in your comfort zone, but just one step at a time. And one day you'll find, oh, wow, they're gone. How did I do that? And then for other people, it's just like, you know what? I'm so fed up. I'm done. and they just walk away.